What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I want to briefly speak about being a parent in the military. I know it's tough at times just being a parent, you know what I mean, in the civilian world, but imagine being a parent in the military. It's even harder, right? I've been a parent in the military since I joined. I've had a child and I've been married and all that since day zero of joining the military. So I can tell you firsthand and give you firsthand advice on what to do, what not to do. And if it works for you, that's great. If it doesn't, you know, you can still probably take little bits and pieces from it, from what I say today, and use it, hopefully. So the number one tip I want to give parents or single parents, married people, whatever you want to consider, because this can be even for married people without kids, right? Because that's difficult too. But single parents or people that are married and have kids, the number one tip I want to give you is don't think that you're not being a good parent, right? Oftentimes people can get into a slump and they think they're, you know, not being the best father or the best mother because the military is just taking their time away, right? When you're in the military, your time is controlled. What you do, where you go, when you go places is very controlled, right? You're always being told what to do and how to do it. And that can be a learning curve for a lot of people, especially when it comes to taking away time from your family, right? So it's difficult, but the one thing I can say is that you have to think of it in a different way. You have to think of it as, I'm going away and I'm taking this time away from my family to go do some good and then bring back greatness to the table, right? So it's not gonna be easy at first, but the more you do it and the more your children get older, it's easier to explain. When you have younger children, you know, when they're at a certain age, they're gonna just see you coming and going, you know, and that can affect them. They may or may not say anything, but as your children get older, you can explain to them what you're doing and why you're doing it, right? And when it comes to your spouse, you know, sometimes your spouse may understand, sometimes they may not, but all you can do is do your best to try to be there when you can and be attentive when you are there. When you do have the time to be at home and be around your family, try to be involved, you know, because I think that's one of the most important things you can do. And I know it may not be easy, you know, you may want to get your sleep and stuff like that, and I'm not saying not to do that, but just give it some effort and try to be attentive. So tip number 2 is to always make sure you're explaining to your command team or your unit or whoever's in charge of you that, you know, you have a family and that your family is important to you and what's going on with your family at all times, because some of your leaders are not going to be married. Some of your leaders are not going to be married or have kids either, right? So that's a hard dynamic to deal with right there, because they won't fully understand what you're going through and what you're dealing with. So open-ended communication is key when it comes to having a family in the military, because you want to make sure that your unit is aware of what's going on at all times with your family. If they know, they might be more inclined to give you time to go to appointments or do things with your family, you know what I mean? They won't put you on duty every so often. You know, they may try to work with you. There's always a workaround. You just have to find it and have to communicate what's going on with you and your family. Number 3 is to just make the most of your time away. If you're having a lot of time away from your family and you're not being productive, like I just feel like, to me, it's a big waste of time, right? For me, I know that when I'm away from my family, I want to make sure that I'm going 110%. That way the results that I'm bringing back to them is that much sweeter, right? Because if you're just lollygagging around, you know, you're just messing around at work, you're not really doing anything, you're not being productive, that's time you could have been at home spending with your family or your kids or your wife, whatever, instead of just sitting around at work not doing anything, right? So for example, like if you're at work and they release you early, don't stick around, right? Get out of there, go see your kids, go see your wife. Make sure you put that time in, because it's gonna make it easier for you in the long run. Like, and you'll see what I'm talking about, or you'll know what I'm talking about if you have kids or a spouse, right? Tip number 4 is to try to minimize stress, both at work and at home, because it's gonna become stressful because, like I said earlier, they don't fully understand what's going on, right? Most people think that the military is not a all-day thing, right? But it is. Like, even when you go home and you take off the uniform, you're still at work, right? And you're even more so at work when you have a family, because your kids are going to want to play, your wife is going to want to talk and interact and tell you about what she has going on or whatever she has on her mind, you know. And if she's stressed, it's going to make it that much harder, you know what I mean? Because when you come home and you come through that door, you know, it's kind of a, from what I've learned, it's kind of a relief for your spouse, especially if they're a stay-at-home spouse, right? They're watching the kids all day, they're, you know, chasing the kids around, don't do this, no, don't touch that. So they're stressed, you know what I mean? So when you come home, you know, you want to try to find ways to help out and relieve that stress, you know. It's a two-way street when it comes to parenting, and it's something that both of you guys have to communicate on and be very invested in. Tip number 5 is more geared towards the spouse, not necessarily the kids. So if you're married, make sure you find that time to go out on dates and do things of that nature with your spouse, because it's going to relieve so much stress. Believe me, it's going to relieve a lot of stress, right? When you're out there, you know, if you can find somebody to watch the kids, you guys go out and do what you guys, you know, whatever you guys want to do, movies, dinner, whatever. It's going to relieve stress for both of you guys, right? Because you're not thinking about work, and for that moment, you know what I mean, she's not worried about the kids. You can just be free, let your hair down, and just have fun, right? All these tips that I just gave you are going to ultimately allow you to be successful at parenting in the military, right? You're already a great parent. All you need to do is use some of these tips I just gave you to make it easier if you're a military parent, and especially if you're a single parent, because you have it harder if you don't have that second parent around. But don't get discouraged. You're doing great. Keep doing great things in the military. Keep doing great things at home, and you're going to have a successful career, and you're going to have a great at-home life. All right, so hopefully these tips can help you guys out. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share the video as well. I'll see you guys in the next one.